Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review The Big Lebowski. So, I would have to go out of my way to say that there are parts of this movie that are funny. I had a really good chuckle out of this because I've never really 100% seen this movie before. And so, when seeing this movie finally, there was obviously parts where, like, I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to laugh here. This is freaking hilarious. But really, overall, there just isn't a good enough story in this film. There obviously isn't an effort put into a story because really this movie feels very repetitive and also is to really kind of give us like a story that is to be this like mystery kind of thing, but a mystery that nobody really cares about. It's basically things just keep being plopped and plopped and plopped and plopped just to waste time. And we have, of course, just the dude running around as this innocent bystander where he could have really gone on and just said, oh no, I'm not interested. And then he would have been completely absolved of all of this film and he wouldn't have had to jump through all these hoops. Because this guy is getting threatened, tortured, beat up simply by being involved in something that really isn't at all his fault, that he shouldn't be at all connected to, but somewhere rarely he just is. And so this movie becomes a mystery where all of a sudden we tie in guys like, of course, John Goodman or, of course, Steve Buscemi, and we go on and have these characters who are bowlers. And so we weirdly continue to tie bowling with a kidnapping film. A kidnapping film where the dude has to consistently go with Walter and try to figure out what this whole deal is. What's going on with these people? Or why is it that a girl named Bunny is to have been kidnapped? Whether or not that possibly this is a legitimate kidnapping, or maybe this girl had planned it herself, or any number of scenarios. And then we also go on and consistently meet some very odd people along the way. We can't help but finding out a artist named Maud, a group of guys that we are to assess or assume are to be this group of guys that no matter what want their payout. We go on, we meet a guy named the Big Lebowski, who is not actually Jeff Bridges' character. We just have this guy called the Big Lebowski just because that's what IMDb is to tell us. And the reason why he's to be called the Big Lebowski is because really he is to share the exact same name as the dude. And so I guess to defer, I guess for some reason they call him the Big Lebowski because his name is actually Jeffrey Lebowski, and so also is the dude. But we of course have the dude who's desperately telling everybody, hey, I go by the dude. Call me the dude. Do not call me Mr. Lebowski. Don't call me Jeffrey. Call me the dude. Or call me dude. Or call me Doodalicious. Or call me Duder. Call me something else besides Lebowski. And they call him that anyways, with the exclusion of the friends that actually know him. So we go on in this movie and we consistently have it where there's a possibility that the dude will get a payout. And there's also this very funny moment also in this movie where we have at one point where Walter and the dude are going on and saying this line called, dude, where's your car? I'm kind of wondering if that ever was to have spun off that Ashton Kutcher movie of Dude, Where's My Car? Maybe they were just big fans of this movie and they realized, like, oh man, like, you know what? We were watching The Big Lebowski and that one line of "Dude, where's my car?" And then we realized, you know what? We could do a whole entire movie based off of that one line. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. High five. Whoever the other writer was, or whoever the single writer was, or whoever. Because maybe they were big Lebowski fans. I don't know. It's kind of weird. So maybe it was just a coincidence. Not quite sure, but we'll figure that out someday. So going into this, so it's a kidnapping story. It's a story about a guy who's never going to ever really get the one thing that he wants out of this. So it seems that he he at some point in this story has to figure out how he's going to get something out of this film, and so it seems that with Maud, he is to at least get some kind of something, if you know what I mean, when we get through the later parts of this film. And so with that said, I think that's all I want to cover for this in a cryptic like sense. Um, because anything else, I'm going to run out of things to say already. So let's go into that double five time territory because it's about that time yet again to go into this thing called spoiler time. It's spoiler time. It's about that time you get to spoil this movie. So, very beginning of this movie, we of course have Samuel Elliott. Of course, a lot of people might know from the first Hulk movie or The Ranch or probably any number of things by now. Commercials, the guy from Roadhouse that didn't really have much of a role on the Roadhouse movie, but still was in the Roadhouse. He's in the Ghost Rider film, the first one, the original one, whatever that one was, the Nicolas Cage one. So we have Sam Elliott going and building up this guy called the Dude, but we really don't have him build him up very much. We just have it like, well, the Dude is a man, and yeah, like, well, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, whatever. Like, I think I've introed and whatever more than enough about this thing. Like, let's just call it a day. So we go on and have the Dude going to this grocery store, and he of course is to be buying milk, and so we go on and we see, I guess, what certain time period of president that this movie is to be have gone out. So we go on and we have the Dude tra la 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 walking home, and so all of a sudden we find out one thing within this movie, that the Dude is to of course be unemployed, and it seems that this guy is to rattle off and say all the random odd jobs he was ever to do. Like, I guess at one point he was like a roadie for Metallica, and he was any number of odd jobs, which I'm not quite sure if he actually has any money legitimately in the bank. Maybe this guy is to crazily like have a bunch of money saved. Um, he was to go on and mention that he was part of some uh, he was part of some gang or whatever of 8, and he was like the one of the members of this gang that I think might have gone and done some kind of crime or something like that. I don't remember. It was part of the movie. There's so much to freaking take away from this film. So the Dude goes home, tra la 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 la. All of a sudden, to now have him realize that there are. Let me pause here. There's a plane going by. And we're back. Freaking planes. I always think, like, I'm like, man, the sound is far too loud. Like, I'm just like, I don't know if I should really go on and have a plane just be flying by and me continuing to talk. So we go on, and we of course have the Dude who makes his way in his house, realizing that he's not the only one there, because there are 2 men going and grabbing the Dude and slamming him into this toilet, and we of course have these guys be the tree horn thugs, and so they're going on and desperately telling this guy, like, "Hey Lebowski, where's the money, Lebowski?" into this toilet. And so the dude is like, "Well, hey, let me go back in there and let me check if it's in there." And he pushes him in the toilet. And I'm like, oh my god, that is the one hilarious moment of this movie that immediately I got a good chuckle. Because I think every time I would probably see this movie, I would still laugh at that point where the dude is just like, "Well, hey, give me one good douse in the toilet because I think I'll find it." And so we go on. We have this treehorn thug who shoves, of course, the dude back into this toilet. And so now, since the dude can finally go and get air, the dude is now telling these guys, like, "Hey, you've got the wrong guy. Like, I don't owe you money. Uh, Anything, if anybody is to refer to me, they're to refer to me as the dude, not Jeffrey Lebowski. You've gotten the wrong man. And plus, also, do I look like a rich guy? Do I look like..." So they go on and they say that I guess it's not Jeffrey that technically owes them money. It's Jeffrey's wife, a girl named Bunny. And so the dude is like, "See, do I look like a married man to you?" Like, come on, guys. Like, put two and two together. Do I look rich? Do I look like a guy that's... like, do I look like... God, you guys are morons. Like, you guys went to the wrong house. It's kind of like a Loaded Weapon, where we eventually have a trailer that goes on and gets freaking annihilated, and all of a sudden Bruce Willis is to climb out of that trailer with his white flag. And so he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And it's like, "Is this XYZ address?" And the guy and Bruce Willis is like, "No, no, that's down there." I'm like, "Oh, we're sorry." "Yeah, you're sorry." "Yeah, like my house is blown up." Like, what the fuck? Like, so they go on to Emilio Estevez's trailer and they take him out, and I'm just like, God. So I don't know why I always have to relate Loaded Weapon. I don't know how many times I've referenced that. I could probably just at some point review that movie, just because I've kind of talked about it so many times. Because there's always a comedic gag that is to be somehow tied to that movie, because the movie usually has a lot of everything. So we go on and we have this, of course, one of the treehorn guys going and peeing on this guy's rug. And so now we go on and on about having the dude who's really offended that they went on and peed on this guy's rug, because it really, like, it was the one piece that really put the whole room together. And now dude doesn't have that rug because the guy peed on it. So we go on and we have the dude talking to his bowling partners, both Donnie and Walter. And we weirdly have in the background, like, some guy named Jesus who is to consistently lick his bowling ball, or is to go out of his way to kind of really clean up his bowling ball. You have some weird kind of sensual, seductive thing that is going on with, bizarrely, Jesus and his bowling balls for whatever reason. But I guess that's a hilarious thing. So we go on here and we, of course, have Walter, who is to kind of really feel in like-minded places of the dude saying, "Yeah, it was a rug that kind of kept the whole room together. It was really just..." And so the dude is like, "Well, what do I do next? Like, what should I do? Like, I want somebody to pay for this rug, and I can't go after the thug that was trying to, like, pee on my carpet or pee on my rug. Like, where should I go? Should I try to get the authorities to pay for this rug?" So Walter makes the bright idea. It's like, well, why don't you just go and find the other Lebowski? Why don't you just find that guy and make him pay for it? And the dude's like, man, what a plan! That's a great idea. So all of a sudden, Walter is noticing that some guy was to accidentally walk too far with his bowling ball, and he is to get a scratch and get a 0 on his bowling card, but the guy is not wanting to admit that he is to step over the line. And so we get Walter that's so aggravated at this guy to the point of him whipping out a gun and is telling him, like, put a 0 on it, scratch it off. And so the guy's like, okay. Like, so we go on and we now have the dude that is telling Walter, like, dude, we're going to need to get the heck out of here. Like, you just whipped out a gun in a bowling alley. Like, So we go on and we have the dude that is to get a phone call the next day, like a bunch of phone calls just about Walter whipping out this gun. I'm like, I'm sorry, why is the dude having to deal with this? Like, why wouldn't they have called Walter directly? But I guess that's just me. I guess they didn't know, so they may have, like, maybe if the dude is to actually be the captain of this team, maybe that's why they called him. So we go on and we have, of course, the dude going on and finding the Big Lebowski, or in this case, the other Lebowski. And so we go on and we have the dude go and see a guy named Brandt who is to be the Big Lebowski's assistant. And so we go on and we have Brandt who's rattling off all this information of all these bigwigs that the Big Lebowski has ever met. Going on and saying that the Big Lebowski at one point had met with the First Lady and the President, and this is all his kids and whatever. So we then finally go on, after all this time has been wasted, with this whole scene about Brandt going on and having, like, some kind of lines that he has to deliver in this movie. So we go on and we have, of course, the dude who's meeting up with, of course, Lebowski, and we simply have it where the dude just wants the money for this rug. And we go on and we have Lebowski here, the other Lebowski, who is to understand why the dude is here, that they got names switched around. And so we have Lebowski saying that, well, Bunny was the one that these guys wanted money from. Like, it's not my fault that the allowance that I'm to give her is not to be enough, and she's to go on and, like, make all these deals and arrangements behind my back. So it's not technically my fault that your rug was soiled. And so the dude's like, well, I get that, but who do I go to? I just want the money for this rug. That's all I want. So we go on, we have Lebowski here who's telling the dude, it's like, well, sir, you do have a job, right? And so the dude is like, well, it's not about that. Like, it shouldn't be coming out of my check. Like, this is not my fault that this was ruined. And so, but the guy goes on and on and on about, like, well, I'm sorry that your side lost the war, sir, but, like, you have a job, or you should go and get one. And so Lebowski just makes it about that this guy should have a job and should just pay for this rug himself. And so we just go on and we just have Lebowski here, or we just have the dude who goes on and just tells Brand, it's like, oh, well, Lebowski just told me that I can go and take one of these rugs and that'll be my payment for that I can just take one of his rugs in this house because this guy is so freaking rich. I'm sure he won't miss one freaking rug in my mind. So we go on, we have Lebowski who tosses this rug over his shoulder and is to go on and see Bunny and is wanting Lebowski or the dude here to go and blow on her nails, her toenails, because she, of course, just painted them and she can't reach to blow them. So we go on and we have Bunny mentioning that she'll blow uh, the dude here for $1,000, and if Brant wants to watch, he's gonna have to pay her $100. And I'm just like, so man, like this girl is just like, man, does she like just want money and will do anything to get it? Like just trying to see how she can just kind of sucker people out of money. So we go on here and we have the dude who goes off with this rug to go on and turn around and have somebody steal it away from the dude by going on and creeping into his house at night and knocking him out and taking the rug. Because we of course have Maud Lebowski, who is to be the Big Lebowski's daughter, who goes and steals the rug because it is to have some sentimental value to her, and coincidentally, that one rug is to have sentimental value, and so the dude cannot just go on and take it. So all of a sudden, we go on and we have the dude who has like a just kind of an injury upon his face, I guess, which is just a bruise from being hit. So we go on and we have Brant who is calling the dude and saying like, "Oh, it seems like we need you for something, and it has nothing to do with the rug. Like, be sure that it has nothing to do with the rug." And so I think the dude should have just gone on in there and just took another freaking rug. I wouldn't have given it like, dude, this guy is so freaking rich. Here's another rug. Yoink. So we go on and we have the dude who is to talk to Brant and is to talk to the Big Lebowski. And he goes on and finds out that Bunny is to now be kidnapped and there is to be a ransom of $1 million. And so I'm thinking, I'm like, well, like, what part of your furnishings are you going to have to pay for? Like, I'm sure this guy has, like, millions upon millions of dollars just in one piece of furniture, right? So, like, what, like, goofy thing could he just sell to just equal his millions of dollars that these people need? So, that's what I'm thinking in my mind. So, we of course had the Big Lebowski who is saying that he's crying and have you ever seen a man cry, dude? Have you ever, Mr. Lebowski? And Jeff is, and the dude here is still desperately like, can you call me dude or Doodalicious? Can you call me anything but like Jeffrey Lebowski? Could you just please stop it? Like, Mr. Lebowski, like, so the dude is to go on and just be like, well, hey, like, what do you need from me? Like, how can I really help you? Like, what am I doing here? So we go on and we have the Big Lebowski here going and giving, of course, the dude this briefcase, and is to tell him there's $1 million in it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't believe a whole one briefcase has $1 million in it. Like, I would think that $1 million would be in like at least 2 to 3 briefcases, but that's just me. So we go on and we have the dude who has this weird portable looking phone that looks just goofy looking. I guess because it's the call of the times. I guess when we just need a portable cell phone. So we have the dude who is to take this money and this phone, and because supposedly he is to be paged uh, about when he's supposed to go on and help them out. And so once the dude gets paged, we then have him go on and have him deal uh, with this whole ordeal. So we of course have Walter telling the dude that they need to go and just take that $1 million and try to figure out a way to outsmart these guys because they're amateurs, and figure out a way to get both Bunny, the money, and be able to get out of here just scot-free, because supposedly the dude is going to get a reward of 20 grand for doing this, but I can't really believe he's ever going to really get that money, because we have the Big Lebowski that was being an a-hole to the dude anyways. So I bet here's the way that I think the story should have played out. The dude rescues the bunny and gives the girl back to the Big Lebowski, and the Big Lebowski just doesn't pay out, obviously. It's like, oh no, like haven't you heard of goodwill, my good sir? Like, haven't you heard? Like, how could you go on and ask me for a check after this? Like, if anything, like, I will trade your 20 grand payout for a open door into heaven. That's what I would be expecting for this kind of movie to pay out that way. So we also have both the dude and Walter making the consensus that this bunny girl was to desperately need money from a number of people, and so she decided to kidnap herself, because the letter that was given to the Big Lebowski was to, of course, be this newspaper clipping letter. It wasn't written, it wasn't whatever. So, typewriter, whichever. So, we go on here, and we, of course, have it where once the dude is to go and get this this pager, and he gets paged, we then go on, and of course we have dude going on this mission. And so we have Walter, who has this one like kind of luggage that is filled with underwear. And the dude's like, why do you have your underwear with you? And Walter's like, well, I'm doing that on purpose, because like this thing needs to be filled with something that looks like money, and we're gonna trade off this briefcase and then get the girl and still get the money. And so the master plan for these amateurs, as Walter is to continue to say that they are, is that these guys are going to chuck this briefcase across this at this bridge. They're going to chuck this briefcase by this bridge, and so once the guys, I guess, get the briefcase, they will release the girl. So Walter goes and chucks the briefcase, and then the guys all go on and run off, and they realize that they don't have the money. So the girl doesn't get released, and so either way, we have it to where the Big Lebowski isn't the one going and doing this transaction, and so they go on and they probably just say anyways that they never got the money. So now all of a sudden we have at first the dude with Walter is just holding on to this briefcase and like, what do we do now? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, this girl's life is in our hands. And because we go on and we have the Big Lebowski who's telling the dude, it's like, well, yeah, this girl's life is in your hands. Like, please, like, save this woman. Do whatever you need to do. I'm just like, okay, sure, sure. So we go on and we have the dude who, of course, goes on and is to continue to get this phone call ringing and ringing and ringing on this phone. So the dude doesn't bother to answer it. He just like gives up. They go bowling. Who cares? All of a sudden, the dude is to come back to his car, and Walter say, "Hey, where's your car, dude? Dude, where's your car?" Reference to that movie. Anyways, so we all of a sudden find that the dude's car is now missing, and we now have the dude reporting this car stolen. And so these police officers are going and asking the dude, it's like, well, hey, what's in the car? Describe the car. I would have just defined this car as a box because, good God, this car just looks like so beaten up. And I mean, like, I'm sure this car was just living and breathing off of, like, just like glue or hopes and dreams because good God, this car looked so rough. It just did. And plus also didn't help how many times that they like probably crashed this car or smacked this car to where it looks so brutal during this film to where at the end of the film they just burnt the car down. So we go on here and we of course have the dude who files this report that it's stolen, and is to mention there's a briefcase in there that just has papers, business papers. So we go on and eventually have him find this stolen car, or his own car, and of course the briefcase is not in there. And so we go on and eventually have the dude find that I guess some kid had stolen this car. Some kid who's still in high school that is to leave one of his kind of graded papers. He got a D on some paper from school. Weirdly. So, because the dude is going on and trying to fan out this one cigarette that he accidentally drops and then realizes he sees this thing of paper and he's like, aha, I figured out who this is. Who stole my car so I can find this briefcase. But let's backpedal a little bit. So we have the dude go on and we now have everybody up for grabs for wanting to get this money through a number of sources and whatever. So we go on and have the dude who first meets up with Maud Lebowski, who is to go on and try to hire the dude to have the dude track down who had taken Bunny, because Maud is to go on and mention that this $1 million was not supposed to be spent by the Big Lebowski, because really it's just in a foundation that should not have been taken money out of it, or some kind of weird goofy thing that should not have been taken money out of this whole thing, because the Big Lebowski, the guy that's in the wheelchair, like, doesn't really have any money. He's not actually rich. It just looks like he is. So really, if anything, Maud is to actually be the rich woman and because she, I guess, is some painter or something like that, and really all the money, I guess, is to really be to her. So, as this girl is to be seemingly this girl that wears no clothes through a good portion of this film, or she has to go and pretty much like paint without clothes on and kind of just swings and weirdly just does this paint where the dude gets kind of splattered with paint upon his face. So we go on and have Maud realize that the dude is to have this bruising, and so Maud is telling the dude to go to this doctor because this doctor is really thorough. And so every time that the dude does not go to this doctor and re-meets back up with Maud, Maud, of course, is asking the dude, it's like, well, hey, like, did you see this doctor yet? He's very thorough. And so the dude is like, no, it's a bruise. Like, I'll be fine. Like, it's a freaking bruise. Leave me alone. So we go on here and we just have the dude, because Maud is just bringing this up too often about the whole doctor thing. So the dude goes on to just see this doctor, and what ends up happening is that the dude is to have to like drop his shorts during this exam, and the dude is like, no, I got hit in the face, and the doctor's like, just drop your shorts, and the dude's like, okay, well, what does this have anything to do with what so but we go on and later have it be that the dude was, I guess, being set up to sleep with Maud, so that way she could produce a child. Uh, and Maud wants nothing to do with a father for this kid. She just wants to go on and have this kid because, like, she wants to just have a kid now. And so I guess she just randomly chose the dude of all people to be that guy. So, and that's why I think the doctor was examining dude to get him prepared for a possible child being delivered via Maud, but the dude isn't really involved in it, weirdly, oddly. So, going on into further other things. So, we now have it where really the dude is being tortured by a ferret, and these guys who are to be called the Annihilists, and it seems like these guys are to go on and beat and torture the dude in this tub, and they're telling him that they want their money, and the dude is like, well, I don't have it, and they're like, well, you give us this money. So we go on and we have Walter, who is eventually tracking down and talking to dude, and is to, of course, track down where exactly this kid's name is to fit in here. And so we go on here and we have this kid who I'm trying to figure out where the heck this kid's name is. Let me pause here for 1 second. All right. So we have Walter tracked down, finding out that a kid named Larry Sellers is to have had this briefcase, and it seems that this kid is related to his father being Arthur Sellers, and Arthur Sellers was to have put on this show called Branded, and they're like, oh my god, I love that show. Both, it seems that Walter and the dude are to both love that show, and they're to be avid fans of this show. So they go on and they make it to this house. They find out where this guy lives, and so both Walter and the dude are going and seeing that Arthur is weirdly in this contraption that I guess is possibly keeping him alive, or possibly helping him maybe lose an extra 20 pounds, not quite sure, but it looks like a weird, goofy contraption. So we go on here, and we of course have Walter going and telling this man that they're avid fans of the show Branded, especially the early episodes, and like the guy ends up saying nothing. So Larry comes out, and now we just have Walter, who is saying, "Is this your paper? Like, we know it's your paper, Larry." So we go on and on and on, and Walter is to desperately want to confront this kid and make him confess or make him cry or make him whatever, because Walter is just that guy. Because we had him going on and on and on about this restaurant when people were saying that he was technically like, "Hey, you're being a little bit too loud," and so Walter is all of a sudden just kind of talking about like certain amendments and certain things, and that he like fought for this country and all kinds of stuff to not have to leave this restaurant and do whatever he wants. And the dude is like, "Dude, I'm just gonna leave. Like, I'm not gonna want to try to get kicked out of here. I'm just gonna leave this place." So Walter's like, "No, I'm staying. I'm staying." So we go on and we have Walter, who gets so upset uh, with Larry, and supposedly the dude is to think that little Larry is to go on and buy this Corvette. And so they both think that this kid is to start to be spending his $1 million. And so Walter is to go on and say, like, "Hey, like, uh, you don't mess with me, you don't mess with me, blah, blah, blah." So we go on and we have Walter, who's just destroying this vet. He's just destroying this car, and he's going out his way to bash all these windows and the windshield and everything. So all of a sudden we have this one rando guy that comes out and is like, "Oh my god, you're destroying my car! How could you?" And so like, "Oh my god, I guess that's the real owner of that car." They immediately thought that since this car was technically parked in front of this house, they thought that this might be this kid's car, or maybe his dad, because he did Branded, I guess. So we go on and we have this guy who goes on and starts destroying Lebowski's car, and the dude is like, "Hey man, that's my car. That's not his. What are you doing?" So this guy's just going, breaking through every window of this car, and so now we just see it where this is going nowhere, and now both the dude and Walter are just driving off, and they go on and they get In and Out, and I'm like, I don't know how many times that I've heard about In and Out Burger, but since I don't live, I guess, in the West Coast, because I guess that's a burger franchise that only is to be available on the West Coast. Like, I'm not getting any In and Out Burger anytime soon. That sucks. Um, like, because I want to eventually like just try whatever the heck an In and Out Burger is, because really I've seen so much about In and Out Burger, it's ridiculous. Every time I go and watch some movie or something somewhere, it's like, "Oh, we're going In and Out Burger." I'm like, what is up with this burger joint that I keep hearing things about? But I, sadly enough, live in a central uh, state, which we of course don't have In and Out. So it is what it is. Some people might be like, well, because there's some stuff that I probably like. I would probably have here as burger joints here that probably a lot of people don't have, so on and so forth. Like, we don't have a Sonic either over here. Or if we do, it's probably in like St. Cloud or some goofy place somewhere. Um, or it's some goofy location. So, whatever. It is what it is. So, we go on and we have our characters who are still consistently uh, going on and wanting the money, wanting to pay out one or another. Uh, we have dude being ferreted, tortured, to the point where he's in this tub and a ferret is attacking him in this tub. We have, of course, him being threatened about guy's going and cutting his Johnson off at this point. So we then go on and we eventually have the dude going on and meeting with, of course, the Treehorn thugs again and saying, like, hey, we want you this time, not the other Lebowski. And, like, we didn't mess up this time. So we go on and we have now. Whoa. I dropped my phone. We now have the dude going and meeting with Jackie Treehorn. And so we have, like, here's the weird thing about this movie. We had, like, the guy who plays Jackie is the same guy who's in the movie Roadhouse. I'm wondering if they went on and tried to, like, recast a number of people that were in Roadhouse to be in this film, because it just feels weirdly familiar. Let me pause here for a second to get my phone that fell. And we're back. So we of course have the dude who's talking to Jackie here. And so Jackie, of course, doesn't desperately want this girl, because Jackie, of course, we find out from Maud, from the Big Lebowski's daughter, that this girl was to like to do adult movies. And so it seems that Jackie is desperate to get this girl back in his life. And so we again have it where the dude is possibly going to get some money to get just Bunny back, and so on and so forth. And so, like, at this point, we have dude getting offered so much of some money that we don't really even understand it anymore. So we also go on and at one point have the dude reconfront the Big Lebowski, and he found out that the crooks didn't get their payout, and so the dude is telling the Big Lebowski that, hey, like, you should probably realize that this girl had kidnapped herself. And so we all of a sudden have the Big Lebowski that gives the dude this little thing just kind of wrapped in this gauze, and the dude is to find out that it's some toenail or some toe with a nail on it. And so the dude is like, oh my god, that must really be hers. Oh my god, this is crazy. So they go on and we have Walter who's saying, like, well, I could get you a toe. Like, I can like, give me a couple hours, I can get you a toe. Like, how much money do you have? I can get you one. Just really saying that, like, anybody could, like, have a toe just like that. Like, so we go on and really, like, everybody and their brother is to want either the bunny or the money or something. And so we go on and we have Walter and everybody and the brother kind of telling the dude that it seems that the dude is being tailed by somebody, and we find out that it's this private snoop, this private eye, who I guess was to get paid by Bunny's parents to go and find this girl. I'm like, good God, how many stories do we have to have here? So we all of a sudden have this private eye that's desperately looking for this girl, and this private eye is to follow the dude around and just saying, like, man, you're working everybody. Like, you're getting all these payouts from different people, and, like, you're gonna get one big, huge, like, pot of gold at the end of this whole thing. Kind of, sort of, is the way I phrase it. So we go on and we all of a sudden find out that Bunny just decided to just go off to Palm Springs, and she just arrived back at this place, and that she had nothing to do with any of the kidnapping, any of the anything. We go on and we have, of course, like I said before, we had the dude go and sleep with Maud, and I guess get something out of that, I guess. So the dude is to go on and find out and confront the Big Lebowski that there was never really any money in that briefcase. And supposedly the dude was to always be uh, kind of uh, the guy who is to be kind of accused of not being able to pay out these people, but the dude was to never get the money out of this. The thugs were to get never the money out of this, and so either way, the dude was always gonna get effed, and so that was the main reason why the dude should have just been like, "Dude, I want nothing to do with you people. Like, I don't care how good the payout is." So, because there's no real guarantees that this guy is going to get this money or that he's going to get paid anything for doing anything. Uh, like you could have said, like, "Hey, I'll get 10 now and 10 when I come back," uh, to justify him doing this, risking his life for this girl. So we go on and we have the dude that, of course, confronts the Big Lebowski that he never had money in that briefcase. And it doesn't really seem like this guy really confesses, but it just feels like both Walter and the dude are to really just get all the answers they need to make a clear consensus of this guy was to never really pay out because this guy didn't really have any money. So we go on here and we of course have Walter going the extra mile and is to grab the Big Lebowski and to try and say that maybe he doesn't walk either, or that he can walk uh, right out of this wheelchair. So Walter picks him up and is dragging him around to just have him drop on the ground, and the Big Lebowski is just crying at this point. And the dude is like, "Oh my God, Walter! Like, just kind of get him back in, just get him back in the wheelchair. Just kind of help him out." So we go on here, and so we still have a group of people to deal with. So we go on and we have the dude and Walter and Donnie all going bowling. And so we have this one moment where I think Walter is to mention that he can't bowl or do anything on Sundays because it's like Rosh Hashanah or something. And so he can't bowl on Sundays because he can't do anything on Sundays. And so somewhere later on in the film, we find out that Walter is to say that because he's Jewish, and the dude is like, "I'm sorry, you're not even Jewish anymore. Like, you married into a woman and you divorced like 5 years ago, and like you aren't Jewish." And Walter's like, "Well, like, you can't just like not just stop like a religion. You can't just like stop doing that." And so the dude is telling Walter, it's like, "Well, like, you were with that girl 5 years ago, and like, you still just want to pretend or like pretend that you're Jewish." Like, and so like Walter is realizing how thin that is, and he's just like, "Well, like, oh well." So we go on, and because I'm kind of wrapping stuff up, that whatever I forgot about in this movie is kind of where we are at now, because we already kind of finished this movie up. So we go on and we have Jesus who's saying like, "I don't give about the Rosh Hashanah stuff. Like, I don't give what kind of religion or whatever that you're saying that like you can't be here on Sundays. Like, I'm Jesus and I'm here on Sundays." This guy who's to basically have the name of Jesus, and so he says that since he's here on Sundays, everyone else should be. Like, so they can go and finish up this bowling tournament. So we go on here and we have these guys leave this bowling tournament. We have one point where when they head out of this building, all of a sudden they're confronted by these kind of Nazi-ish like guys still saying that they want their payout, and they're like, dude, like you didn't even ever have this girl, and you're calling for this ransom demand that you don't even have proof of life, you don't even have this girl, so why do you guys still want this money? And they're just like, well, we want the money. So we go on, and these characters are now just forced to fight Walter and the dude here. And so all of a sudden, one guy has to whip out this sword, and they're like, "Oh my god, this guy has a sword!" So they're going and fighting these guys off, and so we go on and have like really just Walter knocking a lot of these guys off or just taking them down, and one way or the other. And so all of a sudden they notice that Donnie off to the side is having a heart attack, and they're dealing with that now. So all of a sudden we find out that Donnie is dead, and so we now have to deal with them going on and getting the ashes for Donnie. And so they go on at this ocean, and then they are trying to dump all the ashes near this ocean. And so when when Walter tries to dump these out, every single bit of the ashes, I guess, was at the worst possible time because the wind caught to it and was smacking the dude all over the face, and he's just like, like he's just like getting smacked with these ashes. And so Walter is now kind of wiping the dude and like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry, man. And so he's like, man, you couldn't have gone on and just done these ashes a way different way. I got like hit by all of it. So we go on and we just have them just hugging it out and just grieving because the dude has just been through the ringer. And so we go on and we have Sam Elliott that's in this bar who is going on and looking straight at the camera and talking to everybody to say like, well, hey everybody, like it seems that the dude is gonna have a little the dude come out at some point, so that might continue on this story if we're ever gonna get a sequel or a franchise going to this, which I don't think there ever will be, because if there ever has been, it would be by now before eventually these guys die or pass away, because that could possibly happen at this point. So, so yeah. So hopefully, if there ever is going to be a sequel out of this, they kind of quickly dust that out, or they go on and just reboot this thing and approach it with a different kind of approach to it. But anyways, so maybe they're probably going to approach it like that Tron sequel. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But anyways, so because this is like a cult classic for some reason, everybody just really loves it. But yeah, so this is just how this movie rattles off. This is the movie how this whole thing finishes up. And so at the end of the day, I think that's all I wanted to say about this film, so I can call it a day here. So I can go on and do some other review and then just wrap it all up. So I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody. I guess one thing, because I figured I might as well talk about this anyways, because I think I talked about it in the cryptic-like sense, but we of course had the one scene with the Malibu police chief, where that's where, of course, the dude just gets smacked with that cup, while we have the sheriff who's kind of hating the fact that the dude has got his hands in so many people in this town and making so many these back alley deals to where the sheriff is just not liking it. And so we have that kind of go on too, where it seems that either the dude is being so involved in this town that all of a sudden the police are getting wind of it and the police don't like it. So there's also that. I guess also one thing that I forgot to mention is currently right now this movie is on Tubi. I guess I didn't mention that. TUBI, it's a free movie and service. They can go out of your way to say you've seen a movie for free. But normally I would say that in the preemptive things before we get into spoilers, so that's a little late. But anyways, yeah. I think anything else? Dream sequences. Whenever the dude was to get knocked out for whatever reason, we go on and we have him have this weird, bizarrish dream sequence that makes no sense. Where we, of course, have Maud, who's to be this kind of like Viking with these bowling ball chest pieces. And we have these bowling pins that are to come on and be dancing as if they look like they're turkeys. It looks bizarre. It looks weird. We go on and have at some points where Lebowski is either flying with the bowling ball or dropping or like falling out of the sky with a bowling ball. It's very weird. It's very bizarre. Uh, but I thought I would at least go on and try to mention some of these weird and goofy scenes of which we have at one point where like we have the Big Lebowski who is to be this really small variation of himself, and he of course is to go in this bowling ball, and someone is to kind of use the bowling ball to go and smack into these pins, and we kind of see this kind of perspective of this camera inside this bowling ball, and we see that this bowling ball is knocking out these pins. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting to kind of see that perspective. Um, I kind of thought that was kind of cool, that kind of visual perspective of a bowling thing, I guess. It would be cool if there would be a bowling movie that would actually go and try and do that a lot. That'd be kind of an interesting way to approach a bowling film. But I guess that would probably just be a waste because you would probably have to have the bowling ball going pretty slow instead of going really fast, or otherwise it probably would have made much out. So, so yeah. With that said, I think it feels uh, like really at some point there isn't much of the dream sequence that I really care to cover because it's kind of this fever dream of nonsense that makes no sense, and it's really just go ahead and check it out in the film. Rather than just me trying and describe it because it's just so weird. It's so weird. But with anything, I think I'm going to get out of here because I feel good enough question mark about all this about the Big Lebowski, and some people may have their reserved feelings about this film and may love it regardless or hate it regardless or feel indifferent about it and just be able to say that they've seen this film because maybe they haven't. So I'm going to go out of my way to say that this is okay enough for me to just get out of here because I feel I've covered the rest of what I wanted to cover. So I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.